My name's Haven Blythe. I'm originally from Cabot, Arkansas, and I am going into my senior year at UAM. So yeah, that's me. I grew up knowing the gospel. I heard it every Sunday. I knew what it was. I knew who God was. I knew who Jesus was. I knew that he died for my sins. My dad was a pastor, so we sat on the front pew every Sunday like clockwork. But I started to figure out that I couldn't accept what I was hearing was for me. I couldn't accept it. I couldn't accept that tug, that pit in my stomach was the Holy Spirit being like, hey, this is for you. This is you. You need to hear this and you need to act on this. And I have come to learn that I was practicing a religion and not a relationship with God. And so growing up, I struggled a lot with anxiety, and my parents will attest to this. I was always anxious about everything, whether it involved me or not. It controlled my life, it controlled my actions. And this comes into play a lot later in my life, and it's a huge part of my testimony. In junior high school, I got into a relationship with someone I probably should have never been in a relationship to begin with. Not somebody who is Christ-like, not a relationship I should have been in. And he's very, very controlling, had to know everything. And of course, I feel like it would in anybody. It's created more anxiety because I was always constantly worried about upsetting him or doing something wrong or not doing the right thing. And he was very controlling to the point I wasn't allowed to see friends, I wasn't allowed to go to family events, sometimes I wasn't allowed to go to church, which is crazy to even think that I would have allowed that. But I was 15, 14, and I was so infatuated with somebody that I couldn't see all the things that were happening. And we dated for a long time, up until my sophomore or junior year of high school. He had never really been aggressive towards me before. He had verbally been aggressive, but not in a way that was ever worrisome to me, at least. But I always had these blinders up, as I say. And one day, I think it was about 4 years ago, I went over routine, always was over at his house. And we got into an argument, and I can't tell you to this day what that argument is about, but something clicked that day, and he put both hands around my neck, and I stopped breathing for 30 seconds, and it was literally the scariest moment of my life. That whole moment changed my life. I spiraled into more anxiety, more depression, a depression like never before. I had thoughts of taking my own life, because I felt so unworthy of any love that I could ever feel from anyone. Okay, this one person didn't love me, now I can't, now I'm broken, now all these things have happened to me, nobody's gonna want this. And I just remember feeling so hopeless. I finally had to come and tell my parents how I was feeling, and I started therapy, and it kind of worked and it kind of didn't. But my life really started to change. I started acting more and more not like myself as this depression spiraled. I started doing things no 16-year-olds should be doing, places no 16-year-olds should be, and I just was I felt at that moment I was in rock bottom, and still to this day that's probably the lowest I've ever been. And then my dad decided that it would be best for our family to stop pastoring, and we were all led to a different church, and at that church I started hearing the gospel presented in a different way from a different person previous from the last 10 years, and like I said, I was in a really hard spot in my life. And then one night, I was on the phone with that same ex-boyfriend, and I shouldn't have been talking to him, and I know that, and it was a really dumb choice, but he had started trying to figure out who Jesus was, and I had openly admitted to him I don't think I've ever given my life to Christ, and he was why not now? And I stopped, and in that moment I realized that everything that had happened over the last 6 months, my life could have easily been taken from me that day. I was not guaranteed the next day, and hearing those words was like a ton of bricks. why not now? So I muted the phone, and I cried out to God to like save me from my sins, to save me from this anxiety, this depression, to save me from this relationship, to help get me out, like to give me a way out. And He did, and He changed my life. And for years, after I questioned, like, I used to leave this part out of my testimony because I was so embarrassed. Like, this girl who struggled with this like abusive relationship of like, she went back, and like that's the story we always hear, and it's like, it's so sad. But I didn't want everybody to know that. I was embarrassed until one of my best friends, still to this day, she looked at me and she was like, Haven, you have to share that part of your testimony, because what the enemy meant for evil, this relationship that like destroyed you, God looked at you and said, look what I can do with this. Like, look how beautiful I can make this. This is the reason that you get to be with me forever and ever and ever. And so, yeah, if I could say like one thing, it would be that like, you're not promised tomorrow, and God will meet you where you are. He meets me there every day. He meets me where I am, and He saves me every single day. And He saved me from the anxiety, the depression, that relationship, like all of those things. So yeah, that's my testimony.